You're listening to Late Night Radio on the SHR Media Network. Caution, there will be mature themes explored and potentially adult language used. If conservatarian words, phrases, certain concepts, or rhetoric offends you, tune out now.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same. And if you and I don't do this, then you and I may well spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in America when men were free.
I have come here to chew bubble gum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubble.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show. Live and direct from the SHR Media Network in the SHR North Idaho studio, singular, as I am no longer broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California. I'm in an actual free damn state, which is really cool. By the way, I want to tell everybody the preface, what you're about to hear tonight consists of my opinion and my opinion only, and perhaps that of my guest. And I got a great damn guest for you tonight. So, I'm inviting you. Come on into the saloon. The water's fine. And the drinks are fine too. Relax, converse. We are still serving stiff drinks. Facts, history, logic, rationality, proportion, context, tradition, intent, and common sense, which is no longer common. And just remember, we don't water our drinks just like we don't water our conversations. Politics, religion, crime, culture, economics, race, sex, science, law. We talk about it all right here in the saloon, but the speech is in fact free, but the booze is not. As I have said for quite some time, especially in 2025, I'm done with bipartisanship and compromise. I've been labeled a white supremacist. Funny that should come up because that's going to play into this coming show. And as I've said for some time, so you know what? If loving God, my country, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, due process, malum in se versus malum prohibitum, if that makes me a terrorist, okay, I'm cool with that, and I would hope you would be too. Tonight, we're going to be talking about what happened just yesterday in New Orleans, Nolens, Louisiana, and also in Las Vegas. Some of the stuff makes sense. Some of it is just brain exploded. Before we explode more brains, however, I want to add to the circle of life Jeremy Hanson, and welcome to you, sir. It is great to see you, senor.
Thank you very much for letting me be here, even though I'm still working off a New Year hangover. Still,
you said so, and I distinctly remember that. And I thought, well, it would be rather bad if this blows my brain housing group. I'm going to be 75 this year. Holy shit. I can remember telling myself, dude, you ain't going to make it to 40. Then at 40, I kept telling myself, you ain't going to make it to 50. 60, same thing. 70, same thing. I'm just waiting for my factory issued heart attack, Mark 1, Model 1. And I know it's going to be these things. It's going to be loud. It's going to be supremely inconvenient. It's going to be embarrassing as batshit. And it's going to be really damn painful just because of all the abrogations that I've kind of collected over the years. I can see it coming. Anyway, we're going to be talking tonight with Jeremy Hanson about all the craziness and foolishness that has occurred, a bunch of questions to be asked a lot of particular facets to be examined. And as you would expect, I've got a shit ton of video for everybody to see, including some video that I'm not sure people have seen before. From, let's see, I have about 75,522 tabs over here. Who are we going to be talking about? Oh, I don't know if you guys are aware of Sarah Adams, but I've got her interview on a couple of shows and also the Sean Ryan show. Sean Ryan being a rather stellar stud, kind of on the order of Joe Rogan, only just different, but gets great people to interview. But before we go there, with the beginning of 2025, Jeremy Hanson, can you tell us about you, about your podcast? I want people to be able to listen to you. What's in your podcast? Where can they hear it? When can they hear it? So if you would let folks know about the Jeremy Hanson podcast, please.
Well, thank you. The Jeremy Hanson podcast, it's on Spreaker, Apple Podcast until last week. Now, don't ask me why. I was on Spreaker, on Spotify, and Spotify eliminated my show off of Spotify. Now, for the third time, and you know what's really weird? I have an entrepreneurial news commentary show. Okay, so it focuses more on making a little bit of money with your family, being able to live the American dream. Now, I used to have a very hard-hitting political show where I talked about things that some people had business knowing, some people had business not knowing, and I got taken down on all my platforms, including Spotify, got put back on Spotify, went off of Spotify, took a 2-year hiatus, came back, and now I'm off of Spotify again. But my Apple and iTunes and iHeart numbers are good enough that, man, I'm telling you, people are resonating because I'm 46th in the world for my podcast right now, which, you just can't do without people. You can't do it without people actually following you. And I feel very blessed and I feel very lucky. And I feel, like watching you do things, it kind of gives you an edge when you got people that have been doing it a while and they do a damn good job. So that's where they can get me. And thank you very much, BZ.
Okay. I don't know if everybody heard what he said. So he told me this, Jeremy Hanson told me this a couple of days ago. And I thought, I think you texted me first. And then I looked at that and I said, oh, come on, massive bullshit alert. That's not true until it's true. So please, the numbers, tell everybody again, because I don't think it went. The first time I heard it, I thought, oh, come on. Tell everybody again that amazing, astounding number.
Okay, I'm 46th in the world. I've been kind of hovering between 60 and 40, going in between. Multiple countries like Greece, I was number one in. Belgium, I was number one in. And all these change daily. But for a small show, it's just me and my wife here. We're doing this. I get help from people like you, but there's no like big income coming in from big companies. So it's astonishing to me knowing what these other people do, that you can actually climb the charts, that people will actually listen to what you have to say. I'll say it's 46, and it kind of makes me giddy to say that. But again, I'm off of Spotify. I wasn't even being political, and somehow I got pulled off of Spotify. So they must not like me over there or something.
So the big question is, if you get yanked off of Spotify, do they give you the courtesy of even saying, other than you're out of here, do they give you the courtesy of saying, okay, and here's why you broke this tenet, that tenet, any of that?
No.
Something?
So what will happen here is I'm pretty good friends with the people at iHeartRadio. And last time this happened, the first time I was like, I don't know what I did wrong. I sent emails. No, they wouldn't respond to me. Then I contacted iHeart and I was like, yeah, man, I don't know what happened. They contacted them and they're like, well, the guy was spreading medical misinformation about the CV-19. And which, by the way, now has all been proven to be true.
Oh, okay. Hell yeah.
So I wasn't spreading misinformation, but then they pulled me off again. Then when I put the new show up, so it's going to be a song and dance again. They don't tell you, they won't respond to emails. It takes some other big brass to go somewhere and find out, well, what did he do this time? And, my thinking is, and you know this, your RSS feed and your IP address and all those things, when you are deemed a threat to their narrative, you start getting suppressed. And I don't even know what my threat could possibly be. Now I'm sitting there talking about how people can do side hustles and how to do it and make some extra money for your family and travel and live a happy family life and keep your marriage together. And, I literally the other day, BZ, I told people the history of pink lemonade. I mean, do you get much?
Wait a minute. Where's my producer? Pink lemonade.
But I'm having a wonderful
You can't
time
write this
doing it.
shit.
You can't. And I'm really looking for it. My wife started a podcast. She's doing okay. It kind of makes my heart feel bad. Okay. I've been at this years, right? And my wife starts one a month ago, and she's like 182nd in America. Now she does a family and children, relationship podcast. So it's a different type of thing, but still, I mean, I don't know, maybe she's just learning from all of us. Like she's staying up at night watching us, like me and you, like, this is what I need to do. But then the thing that I am so excited about, it's great being 46 on the charts, but what I'm really excited about is I have my comedy podcast coming back on.
Oh, yeah. Tell us about that, because you were there, and then one day you disappeared, and then life with a capital L stepped in. So tell us about the new thingy.
Okay, so we had Morning Crankers, and Morning Crankers, everybody loved it. It was fun. It was lighthearted. We did get into some topics, and during that time, of course, CV-19 happened to be a big punchline of ours, and the idiots and morons that were listening to, well, maybe I shouldn't go any further than that in your show, but you know what I'm saying.
No. Hey, listen, if there's one thing that I know that you understand about me is that I don't give a shit about ratings. In my days of hedging a bet or not saying what I think, those days can go straight to hell. So, the F, the S words, I've been trying to be a good boy and not doing that stuff quite as much as I used to, but I honestly couldn't care less. If you want to name names and set various persons on fire, go for it.
Okay, I'm not going to let anybody go on fire, but I've got a very good friend that is my co-host named Dan Baker, Deplorable Dan, everybody knows him as, and just a great guy, hardworking American guy, been on the radio. He was in the Patriot movement, went all over the country and stuff. And, he would make jokes about these, I speak COVID, he would talk like that. So anyways, we started getting demonetized, and we got demonetized everywhere. We had shows that, we're not in the big leagues yet, but 180,000 views on YouTube, which is a big mark.
Oh shit, yes. I can't get 20.
Well, they would keep all of our stuff up there, and then they would send us emails saying, well, this has been demonetized because of that, and this has been demonetized because of that. And it literally started like strangling us for money. And so one day he came in and he's like, I just can't do it anymore, Hans. That's my name in the podcast. His name's Greg. My name is Hans.
Hans Gruber.
Yes. And, we had such a great time. And I think that in the mornings, like we talked to local people, we talked to, like Rodney Lee Conover, the producer. We just had a lot of fun. Sometimes it was political, sometimes it wasn't, but it was always joke filled and lighthearted, so you could start your day well. And we just got demonetized, and it killed us. And I was so sad to see that go away. And Dan Baker came up and visited me here a few weeks ago. He's like, I think it's time. I think it's time that we come back. We got to avoid three things. And this is the truth in this business. Here's the three things that you can't talk about. You can't talk about abortion. You can't talk about illegals. And you can't talk about what they perceive as medical misinformation. Those three things. If you talk about anything else, you're fine. You can say the F word. You can talk about the the corn with the P. You can talk about anything. You just can't talk about those three things. So we're setting the show back up. We're going to go back into doing a lot of dumb jokes, having fun. But it's funny if you go on and you hit ChatGPT and ask what Morning Crankers was, it gives the pros and cons. And there's a lot of pros. And then you go to the last two cons and it says that the listener can tell the political leanings of the hosts. They got that as a con. Okay. And to me, that's not a con because
that's not a glitch, dude. That's a feature. Okay.
Yeah. You know what? I'm pro-America. I'm pro-Christian. I'm pro-family. I'm pro-small business. I'm almost Mexican. You know what I'm saying? So, it's everything that the globe or the globalists, it's those things that they want to shake from us, like our families. They want to destroy the family. They want to destroy patriotism because patriotism leads to nationalism. And I say, kiss my ass. Yeah. It doesn't lead to nationalism. It leads to happy, healthy communities with thriving people. So I'm glad I got this place to come here and feel some of that emotion again, because it does piss me off. And, it does piss me off that I have to self-regulate. But here's the thing. I can't reinvent the wheel. And if you don't play the game a little bit, you're never, ever going to be able to let people hear a message ever. And that's the thing that sucks, BZ.
Oh, hell yeah. But, I'm so ready. If I kick the bucket tomorrow, I've done a shit ton of stuff that 99.8% of the people on the planet haven't done. There's things that I've done that are so terrible and egregious, and there's things that are so wonderful and so kick-ass. And honestly, I don't know whether I'm going, up above or down below, but the day that I expire, I told my wife, don't waste ground on me. Don't waste space for the living. Go flame my ass. Put me in a Folgers coffee can. Go find an empty and a slightly open door on a Union Pacific boxcar. Put me around the corner in that thing and let it take me to Poughkeepsie. And in the meantime, all the bums and stuff that rumble around in that and throw their cigarette butts in there and maybe piss on me, hey, that's cool. That's another experience that I'll be having. But, I am so done. You mentioned those three things. Dude, that's my show. Plus a lot of other stuff. And I'm coming up with another show on occasional Sundays. It's going to be starting with drones. It's going to be called, and if this name, it's like I'm going out of my way to get fucked with. The name of the show is Access Denied 404 Forbidden.
That is beautiful. Now, my website used to say that all the time when I'd get knocked off.
I was on Facebook. Somebody sent me something. I clicked on it and it said 404 Forbidden. And I thought, dun, 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 forbidden. Forbidden. Not.
I want to say hi to the fans.
You are forbidden from going there.
Well, I mean, they do stop us, unfortunately. Reaver of Common Sense, the Phantom Sean Stroik. Hello, they're over on YouTube.
Hey, this is so weird because you did my job, so thank you. I appreciate it. I'll be sending you a fresh nickel, a shiny nickel that I'll mail it to you in an envelope that somebody in the post office will probably already rip up, open it, steal the nickel, put in a lump of coal and mail it to you. So anyway, Phantom, SHR Media, God, that's me, Sean, Reaver of Common Sense. Already I'm on, now for me, let's see, last Tuesday, number 46, comma, you bastard. But I had 180 people. I think it was watching live on YouTube, because I think that's where the comments come from here. And I think there's a way to do that. And already I'm up to 69 people here. I believe it's on YouTube. And then, I have to do my own personal BZ can't do math analytics at the end of the show because I ship myself to a whole bunch of different places. Producer, when I'm talking, would you do me a damn favor and put me up there? Thank you. God, this guy isn't worth the money that I'm paying him. It's about $110,000 a year. God, this guy, why to the moon, Alice? Oh, and I hit 70 now. So anyway, thanks for watching tonight. Jeremy Hanson, thanks for being here. We're going to be talking about New Orleans, Las Vegas. Little of this crap makes sense. And I thought, okay, well, 2025, you can go into AI. I've actually dipped my toe just a bit into AI, and I created that, if you could call that creation. You know, you write something in AI, but that's 2025, dude. And this is what we have. I was thinking, okay, yesterday, those two stupid things stepped off, and then there was this underwater volcano off Oregon coast expected to erupt in 2025. Well, what a lot of people don't know is that there is a huge fault running just off of Oregon, and it's called the Cascadia line. And the Cascadia line is bigger and more serious than San Andreas. And if the Cascadia ever popped off, bad things would be happening. Not quite on the order of Yellowstone, but certainly in excess of, say, St. Helens, that kind of stuff. I found out later that in my area around here, when Helens popped off, 80, I think 1980, right around in there, there was 1.5 feet of ash in my town right here because it was so close. But I mean, my God, all the stupid crap that's happening right now could happen. And it's like, God, you know, the Chinese said something similar to, may you live in interesting times. And I discovered that that's a simple, very Chinese way of saying, screw you. It's very true. Well, let's start with yesterday. There was an attack on Bourbon Street. 14 people ended up getting killed, plus the suspect, who, that's immaterial. He doesn't count. But with that, on the same day, another attack occurred. And I'm not, Jeremy Hanson, I'm not sure that you can even quantify Las Vegas as an attack per se. I mean, it's all so damn weird. And one of the things that came out from the Hill yesterday, Josh Hawley wants to haul 2 other people again in front of Congress to testify about the New Orleans attack. Now, I have to give a little bit of credit where credit is due. I can remember distinctly on a number of occasions, FBI Director Christopher Wray saying something similar to, gird thy loins, boys and girls, because there's going to be some serious crap coming up in the terrorist world. And then after that, I'll get to what happened with the FBI. But looking at this kind of stuff, yeah, you're going to haul Mayorkas up to try to, I don't know what the point of this is. It's like, these dudes are all lame ducks. None of these guys give a shit about the American people. Ray may kind of, sort of. I'm not convinced that Mayorkas does. There may be a bit of a guilty bone. I don't even want to go there with Ray. But the FBI is so abjectly terrible. And I've got video coming up with this. And then, I don't know. Let me ask you, Jeremy Hanson, what do you think? Do you have any opinions or thoughts about Marjorie Taylor Greene?
Love her.
Okay.
I think she's bombastic sometimes, but God, it feels good to listen to a woman talk from her heart and be truthful.
Okay.
It feels really good.
Funny you should mention that because.
Yeah, absolutely. We've watched for 4 years now. The FBI was more interested in tracking down people that protested the election on January 6, 2021. They raided Mar-a-Lago, went after pro-life protesters, parents holding their school boards accountable, people that really weren't following COVID insanity.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that's a misallocation of resources based on the leadership of this administration, the leadership at the FBI, leadership. We could go across the board of every agency and department. It's not that they're lacking the money, because the American people are funding plenty of money into this federal government, so much so that they're $36 trillion in debt. But it's a failure of where they're focusing their time and their effort, and realizing who our true enemies are. Our true enemies are terrorists that want to kill Americans. It's not Americans that want to hold their government accountable. Obviously, the inauguration.
I got to agree with her 110%. You know, we know, let me see if I can get up to this. This typifies what occurred. You know, you have a guy in a truck who ran people down. We'll get into NOLA and how that happened in the first place. But the FBI initially said, and I'm going to play that video because I want to embarrass the shit out of that person. This is, if they could have gotten away with this, the FBI would have done that. That's the first thing that they were thinking about. They weren't thinking about the truth at the time. 5-year-olds knew the reasoning behind that attack. And with like this, you know, who are they going to blame it on? Well, bird flu, global warming. There are too many weird ass things that are occurring right now. Overall, Jeremy Hanson, any thoughts or feelings about, well, first let's start with New Orleans. Any thoughts or feelings about that crazy ass thing?
Sure. Can I answer your question with the news article?
Oh, please.
Okay. New York Post published June 18th, 2024. More officials issue imminent terrorist attack warnings. And it says U.S. House Intelligence Committee Chairman Representative Mike Turner told Face the Nation Sunday, we are at the highest level of a possible terrorist threat resulting from the Biden administration. He issued the warning after 8 foreign nationals traveling from Tajikistan with ties to ISIS were arrested. The men were released into the country by U.S. Border Patrol agents after they were apprehended for illegally entering the U.S. through the southwestern border. And under the current administration policy, instead of processing inadmissible illegal foreign nationals for deportation, they are released into the U.S. with a notice to appear document for a future immigration court date. The agents claimed they didn't have information tying them to ISIS when they vetted and released them. However, law enforcement subsequently became concerned with their presence in the U.S. and took action. FBI, Joint Terrorism Task Forces, and Department of Homeland Security agents arrested 8 terrorists in Philadelphia, Los Angeles, and New York, and they are currently in Immigration and Customs Enforcement custody pending removal proceedings. It says Turner said what's important about these reports is that terrorism threat is no longer speculative. It is no longer hypothetical. So there's the top guys. I mean, literally the top guys in our government in June of this year telling us it is imminent. This stuff is going to happen. Now, where was America? Well, they weren't hearing about this because we have this really bad habit of trying to make whoever's in office look good instead of just telling the truth about what's going on. This was out there. Now it's New York Post. So, you know, half the country won't read the New York Post because it has a political slant, but every single, news station out there does. But here it is. This has been going on for a long time. If you remember, what was it, 2 years ago, BZ? We had the van that ran into New York and ran like 17 people over.
Right, exactly.
This has been going on over and over and over. And for some reason, maybe it's the New Year's, the hope was shattered. I don't know what it is, but something happened where this news actually became news because a lot of it was not news.
Well, you couldn't avoid it. It was on TV. It made national news. And the other reason that I think that it reverberated with people and that Democrats couldn't avoid it is because primarily it didn't involve a gun. And
True.
so you got to cover for, I'll just be blunt, you got to cover for Islam. You got to cover for brown people. You got to cover for people with firearms. You know, this is a bad actor that makes you wonder. It makes me wonder, and all thinking people should be wondering if some kind of a locus involved in all of this happens to be Fort Bragg. And then we've got another story that I want to tell everybody about another guy that got arrested. That was a military guy. What kind of vetting are we doing in the military in the first place? Are we so hard ass up for warm bodies? Well, that's pretty much true. For trans units and everything else, Lloyd Austin double, triple masking with the helmet over his head for Wuhan 19. We're apparently so hard up for bodies that we'll take anything that's warm. And apparently these people are coming in. It's an abortion on toast. I don't know how else to quantify that. And we are so desperate for individuals that apparently, oh hell, like any other, like law enforcement, like the military, like companies, etc. We're just hard up for people, jobs, you know.
Well, let's say his name, Shamsud Din Jabbar. Jabbar. Okay. So this guy, Fort Bragg, which is kind of funny because same unit, same Fort Bragg that the other guy went to. And by the way, Din Jabbar decided to take a leave of absence from the military. He left. Guess where he went? He went to Egypt, and he went and paid homage to CAIR. Okay, CAIR. Can you look up real quick, Busy, how much money the United States of America gives to CAIR?
I would wager millions, and I'll state the obvious. CAIR is the PR firm of Islamists, period. Right. End of statement. It's the PR firm of Islamists who don't mind slaughtering Western people. Yep. I've said it before, and I will say it again, and obviously this is not going to go anywhere. Islam, as practiced, is incompatible with Western civilization. Now, certainly, there are certain aspects of Islam, you know, when they point to all the pedophiles that we have. Okay, I grok that concept. I get it. We hate that crap too. But I guarantee you that if, say, Catholicism was responsible for a fraction of the deaths and the killings that are done in the name of Islam, you'd probably have seen a pogrom against Catholic churches burned to the ground years ago. And the only difference is Catholics won't kill you in the dead of night with guns.
Facts and evidence.
I don't know any other way of placing that. And if that makes me an ist or a ob, etc., you know, look at me, people. Do I look like I really give a fuck? No, I don't. I'm done hedging bets. So if I'm wrong, Jeremy Hanson, please educate me, if you would.
No, I'm not going to say you're wrong. I will say this. There is a group of Islamists here in America that are very much like Christians in America. They go to church once in a while, or they go to the, you know, if you're Jewish, they go to the synagogue, whatever. They do their thing. And we've got that group here, and they're not like fundamentalists. But what we have is this radicalization of people from all over. And for some reason, the world government, the globalists out there, they want to put their foot on the accelerator with this radicalization. Like, remember, ISIS was supposed to be gone. Okay, ISIS was supposed to be gone, but CARE coddled ISIS in its hands, and it started pushing different sects. Now, I got my own, I wouldn't even say theories because I know them to be facts. This goes all the way back to Benghazi. Okay, the reason that Benghazi happened was because the beloved Hillary Clinton was going to get caught at the State Department with her CIA selling weapons.
It was gun running.
Yes,
it was gun running. There was a guy, folks, look up the name Mark Turi, Turi, and you'll discover that he was running guns, and that Christopher who was the consulate. He's not the ambassador. There's a different name for it, for the ambassador of that particular consulate, but he was aware essentially of what was going on.
Correct.
And the CIA disavowed. God, you go into Benghazi again. It's. I've said this before, and I will say this again. The sooner we make ourselves energy independent, as we were fairly well under Trump, and that we do that again and try to distance ourselves from the Middle East version of Islam as practiced. I have another story about a guy that was about, it's my show, I may as well do it anyway, and I've missed the commercials, and so I've decided, what the hell, it's my show, and we're not going to do that tonight. We're just going to continue. 92 people watching live right now. Thanks to everybody who's being here tonight, and thanks to everybody who's watching. Phantom, Sean, Reaver, JEFF, Lost Wanderer from Alpha Centauri. He came a long damn distance to be here tonight. Anyway, to all those people, thank you. There are folks that I've spoken to who have said, and to a degree, Jeremy Hanson, I would agree with you, that there are Muslims in this country who are not the typical Islamist. And after having spoken to a couple of people, when I was in my department and supervising individuals, I would speak to them about what they saw with regard to the sand pit, Afghanistan, Iraq, any number of them. Good dudes and a couple of dudettes, one and all. Great people. And I would tell them, what are some of the things that kind of shocked you about that area, if anything at all? Maybe you weren't shocked about anything. And almost every one of them in their own way said something very similar to, the folks that I've spoken to that were true practicing Muslims are talking about those that are not jihadis and saying essentially they're the ones that aren't practicing Islam right. So yes, there are moderate Muslims, but the moderate Muslims are those that individuals who are big adherents to Islam say they're the ones not doing it right. The other thing that I discovered was people became aware of Bakabatsi boys. Go look that shit up. That's a tub of fun if you don't know what it is. The other thing that a number of them in their own ways said that they discovered that they had heard about, but you're not supposed to talk about it and you're not supposed to bring it home, is they discovered that boys are for pleasure and girls and women are for procreation. Now, I never said that our civilization was the end all and be all, but all the people in the leftists who love the folks in Gaza and ISIS and Hamas and Hezbollah, and especially if you're gay or LGBT, you go over to the Middle East and see how you're treated there. If you would, pretty please. Oh my God. Now I've stepped off onto a platform that I generally can't come back from. But in any event, yes, I would agree with you, Jeremy Hanson. There are certainly a lot of people who call themselves Muslim who are good and honest people that I've had others tell me that they're not doing it right. And if they can live with that, fine. Excellent. I just wish that were true.
If
Go
you
ahead,
go
sir.
back to Ghazi and you look at ISIS and all the things we're talking about here, I can't trust our government. I can't trust our CIA. I can't trust our FBI. I had a really good show going one day, and in the middle, I get a call, and literally it's this former soldier, and he was the sweeper. He was the first sweeper that was brought out to the SEAL Team 6 helicopter that went down. Okay.
Right.
On my show live, he's telling about being the first sweeper there, what they found, how these people were executed. They weren't, they weren't part of this helicopter as they were, chopped up and blown up because of this. He literally gave step by step by step by step what they did, how they fixed it, how they identified these things, how they wrote it down. And what was the name of that new show you're doing on Sunday?
Access denied, 404 forbidden.
Okay. That's every single link to my show the next day. That's what it came up as. Every email that this mother and this soldier, he had PTSD real bad, sent to me, everything gone, vanished, boom, gone. But then because of that conversation, I started looking into it. And there's a lot of things where I'm researching, and it could have only came from this guy. Like, how did he know that? How did he know, like where that helicopter was going, how secretive it was on the base? Not even the 3-star that was there knew where they were going. It was only one person. So all of these things didn't make sense. And now, we come in and we're talking about New Orleans and all the other shit that's happened over the last, I'm going to say 12 years, because you got to remember this started back in Obama's time when Obama said, we're not going to target people anymore. And we're not going to allow the FBI to follow people if there's something to do with religion or race. All those lists are getting scrubbed. We can't follow them anymore. That's unconstitutional. Whether it is or whether it isn't, I don't know. But I can tell you that we lost a lot of valuable information. We can't even tell you today, folks, and this is sad, we can't tell you how many known terrorists on the terrorist watch list are in this country.
No, we can't. We have lost. There are 300,000 people officially that are lost. We've lost hundreds of thousands of individuals. We've lost, what were the numbers? Correct me if I'm wrong. We've lost 50 to 60 to 70,000 children who have crossed the border. No one knows where they are, which is why I said that the United States of America is essentially the largest official human trafficking organization on the planet. Let me back up. I'm going to take a tangent here because I can. Jeremy Hanson, let me ask you this. I do not have the answer to this. I have a bunch of particular answers. I don't have what I think might be the answer. Why? Who? Why would you want to keep the borders open and knowingly allow people into the U.S. who despise this country? They're coming through. Jesus, I'm not Jeremy Hanson. God, producer, wake up. They're coming through, but you do nothing about it. And obviously it's political. It's all about politics. But how can you be such a dolt, a dunce, to not see what's occurring in front of your face and then continue to emphasize that the borders are in control when you know for a fact they are not, and you're seeing the results? Tren de Aragua, they never took over a Colorado building, apartment complex. Well, that's a pack of lies. We don't fly these people in the dead of night all around the United States of America. So, Jeremy Hanson, help me out here. Help me to understand what is the base motivation behind keeping the borders open and despoiling our country like this. And the first day of 2025, this is what we get. Now, I am at this point not going to include the Green Beret in Las Vegas. That's a different dimension all by itself that I would like to talk to you about. But help me out to understand Jeremy Hanson. It's like a bad actor. What's the motivation for these people?
Well, it's actually very, very simple, and it's been in writing in front of us for ages. I remember in 2012 watching and reading about Agenda 2021 and what they were going to do and how they were going to push people up into America, and borders were going to be gone across the world, and they were going to start limiting the amount of electricity we had. Now, people haven't noticed this. Back in 2012, how many outages in California were there in electric back then comparatively till now?
There were some, okay, this is going to be weird. There were more outages in California in the 2000s. Now, at the time I had my cabin, you may or may not have heard that my wife had a house down in Sacramento in South Sac in Ghetto Central. And I had a cabin at about the 4,000 foot level in the Sierra Nevada mountains. It turns out that my electricity up there was more reliable up to a point than her electricity was down in Sacramento. Now, if you remember, California, always spell it with a K, deregulated electricity. And that created a shitstorm of distribution issues and problems. And then, of course, we had some fires, and then the mother of all fires in Paradise, California, which ended up killing, PG&E murdered 89 to 90 people because they set wildfires due to the shitty-ass equipment and neglect that they had been, well, it was neglectful. And, of course, they were sued within an inch of their life. And they went bankrupt, and they were saved by whom? By Newsom and the state of California itself. PG&E, this is my show, this is my opinion. PG&E consists of murdering profiteers, period, end of statement. And then once there was pushback against PG&E, they created the PSPS, pss, 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 like you're calling a cat. Public Service Power, I'm forgetting the last S, but basically they turned off your power. Okay, well, this is brilliant. I know we're going to get back at the consumer for suing us and for complaining that we set their asses on fire and completely destroyed their lives and their homes. I have a great way. We'll get back to you. We'll just cut your damn power off. Now, you may or may not know, PG&E ranges all up and down a good portion of California and into the Bay Area. I had PG&E up there. Sacramento has SMUD, the Sacramento Municipal Utility District. I was not a member of that. And then, of course, when SMUD would turn your power off, if you knew there was one coming, you could turn some certain appliances off. But if you didn't, then all your stuff went dead. And the thing that killed you and all of your equipment is when they would reactivate and energize their lines again. And that's how I lost, just before I moved, luckily, that's how I lost my TV, my VCR, every light bulb in the house, my microwave, and the electric portion of my oven. And I'm missing some kind of another appliance, to which PG&E essentially said, fuck you. You're on your own. There is no reimbursement in your future, little boy. Did I answer your question?
Yes, in depth. Thank you.
Shut up.
Look at it, the United Nations has been pushing this for a long time. What is the United Nations? Well, it's a corporate conglomerate of every globalist across the world that wants to do something with where they don't see any way to make a lot of money, they're changing it. Now, what they say is it's sustainable development. Well, the reason that we have open borders is because of the directive of the UN and the globalists for sustainable development. And guess what? They told us this was going to happen a decade before it started happening. And in real time, anybody that actually read it is like, oh my gosh, these people are coming up here. And it's not like, a few people running across the border. Now, I differ in my opinion with other conservatives on this, and I'll come back to that. But it's not just that. It's, we're going to raise the price of meat so it affects the consumption rate that Americans are eating meat. Guess what happened? They raised the freaking price of meat up so much from 15 years ago that most families have found alternatives because they can't afford meat. Okay, they're talking about using less electricity. We have things like this, BZ. We were supposed to have these electric stations all across America. What was there, 8 of them done? And we spent billions on it. We were supposed to have like a fleet of 4,000 mail carrier electric vehicles. What did we get? 12? A dozen?
Yeah, if that. Electric buses for millions of dollars.
Exactly. So where is all this money going? Well, it's going back into the black funds to these. And some people are going to say, oh, that's such a conspiracy. And I'm going to say, fuck you, because I'm so sick and tired of people saying that. Way back when I first started talking about this and saying, watch, this is going to happen. The UN is pushing this. There's borders all over the world that are going to open up. People are going to go there. It's going to be chaos. And there's a few things about America in particular that they have to fight against. Okay. One is the family. The family, the American family, is different than any other family system in the world. And it made our country stronger. Nationalism, to the effect that this place is producing progress and, healthy communities, that's a problem for them. So if you want to change that, and that Thomas Jefferson said, hey, this Constitution is for a moral people. Now, he didn't say Christian people. He didn't say Islamic people. He said, this Constitution will not work without a moral people. And then on the other side of that, Adams comes out and he says, you know what, there's always wolves at the door. And he's talking about exactly what we have going on today. When you figure that out, and then you see what the UN is doing, and you see the presidents, that's where Trump had all his problems. It was because he was the only one standing up to the conglomerate of the globalists around the world. Whether you love him or hate Trump, you can at least admit that he gave the middle finger to the globalists that are crushing America. They're crushing Britain. They're crushing Germany. They're crushing France. They're still continuing to crush Russia, to literally Ukraine losing 2 generations of men. That's how bad they want to win. It's happening everywhere, and you better watch out or you're going to get steamrolled in the process. But New Orleans, Las Vegas, New York, Chicago, that is all being done by the propagandists and the terrorists from globalism, and it's enshrined through the UN.
I go back to 3 words of phrase that I've used. And I think this is part and parcel of what you're saying. And thank you for that. That's another reason that I'm really glad. And I'm appreciative of the fact that you were here tonight. I had completely forgotten Agenda 21. I had forgotten about the WHO and the WEF portion of that, the UN portion of that, the Georgia Guidestones who got their asses blown up. That was fun. I enjoyed that as well. But the 3 words I'm thinking of is demography is prophecy. And to those who don't believe in a strong United States or a strong America, like Obama, for example, and are guilty, and I submit that Angela Merkel is one of the biggest betrayers of the human race in recent history. Angela Merkel was a Gaup, a guilty, overeducated white person who felt guilt for World War II. perhaps as well she should, though I don't think that she had anything to do with Adolf Baby. But she was responsible for flooding Europe with Syrians. And say, initially, she talked about multiculturalism. But in Germany, they call it multiculti, is unsustainable. Then magically, mystically, she became a huge supporter of that and ended up ruining Europe. Now, what would happen? I'm all for BZ's reversal effect. What's good for me is good for you. What's good for you is good for me. No one is equal until everybody is equal. And then the reversal effect is, what would happen if all the people, or a significant portion of the people in the United States, decided that they were going to go down to, I don't know, Peru or Chile? Because, dude, we like your coast. You got a cool coast. And just take it over and expect everybody in Peru or Chile to pay for them, to pay for everything. Everyone would have a shit fit over that. But it's okay to do the reverse to the United States of America because of a French statue in a bay. After a while, this stuff is going to be, it's unsustainable. Now, and that's the reference. Oh, well, open arms to all of these people. Okay, folks, you are aware, roughly, as I've said before, that between 1924 and about 1964, give or take, we mostly didn't have immigration. The United States did slot a number of positions for people to come in from certain designated countries. Africa, you could have X number of people come in per year, but it was very regulated and very controlled. And the reason for that was due to assimilation, which now is a bad word. Now, how did we manage to make it? And let me emphasize, emphatically, in an emphasis kind of way. I don't give a shit if France or Norway or Denmark is on our southern border. If they were flooding this nation, as is Mexico and the rest of Central and South America, I would have the same umbrage today. Denmark, go back to your own damn country. French, go back to your own damn country. Norwegians, go back to Norway. I don't give a shit about your color or your paint job, as Lonnie Poindexter has said on any number of occasions. I just give a shit that you're coming up here and expecting things for free. This is our country, and we have control of it until we don't. Okay, stepping off that podium right now. I'm sorry.
I have a question for you, BZ.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is truth objective or subjective?
Oh, boy. It's funny you should mention that, because I took a philosophy class in college, and that was one of the questions. Is true, and one of the answers was, whose truth?
Perfect.
According to whom? Well, if first, oh my God, Jesus, why did you do that to me? Because that made me, by the way, I got a C in philosophy. I didn't pass it with flying colors, but you would
I'm getting down to why America's this way.
Okay, you would like to think that truth is objective and not subjective. Let me answer your question as plainly as possible with that to start.
Okay. All right. Well, let me ask you the next question then. If assimilation is a bad word, and assimilation is what, is the glue that has held America together, BZ, is morality, which we base our laws off of law, but law is in depth morality of a societal people. Okay.
Yes.
Now, is morality objective or subjective?
For us, it is objective
world.
in Western society, but everyone else's morality is subject to their areas, their countries, all sorts of things. And then, oh my God, because then you get into the UK, then you get into pedophiles, then you get into the Bakabatsi boys, then you get into NAMBLA, whom I fought when I was in child abuse, in the Child Abuse Bureau. Oh my God, that's another question. Let me throw another one back to you then, sir, because I had a show that was 3 hours about 2.5, 3 years ago, where I had 5 people on. 4 of them were pastors. 1 of them was a former pastor. And I said, is man good? Is man born good, or does man become good and have to work on it?
We're born into sin. We're bad to the core from the day we're born because of our blood, because of what we've done. So I don't think that humans are born good. I think we're actually born bad. Otherwise, there'd be no reason to have to save us.
Yes, and or there would be no reason for laws, because inherently we would intuit what is the proper and right thing to do. Let's throw religion out the door.
Okay.
Let's talk about the 10 Commandments. Oh my God, what kind of tangential crap have I gotten myself into right now when I was supposed to be doing a show on NOLA in Las Vegas? So,
well, this is about that. This is literally about that.
It is, and that's why I find you extraordinarily unique, Jeremy Hanson, because these are excellent questions and excellent points to pose. I completely agree with you. It's why I say, can I consider myself a Christian? I think so. But I have to say, I believe in God. I don't believe in man. I am not a strict constructionist when it comes to the Bible. I've read a little bit. I know what the Council of Nicaea is. It was a political aspect. And anytime you have man involved in that, you begin to, everything shatters. Everything falls asunder, because I don't think man is good. God is good. I believe in God. I don't believe in man. And my job, of course, again, for years, emphasized, well, I think my take was correct. Now, we will have glimmers and people who will shine through, and that's fabulous. But in general, man with a capital M, I believe in God. I don't believe in man.
I would agree with you. When you look at the thing about the question about morality that I said to you, and you were talking about assimilation, the glue that held the multinationalism from all these different places when they came here and they said, you know what, we're just going to be American. We're going to keep some of our stuff, our foods, our traditions, our love, our religion, but we're all going to assimilate around the idea of a healthy, strong, loving America that accepts people, because you can come here and be something specific, and that is America. It's American. It's the American dream. These people that we see today, because of these crazy fucking leftists out there that keep telling people that assimilation is racism and assimilation is destroying humans. Because of that, you have people like we see in New Orleans who came here, and because objectively they don't believe the same thing we do, because assimilation is wrong. So subjectively, they believe that they're doing the right thing by mowing down a bunch of people. I think the death toll is now at 15, having those bombs in the truck, lighting the place on fire. Why? Because subjectively, his morality tells him what he's doing is good. And you got all these people around that love to love the terrorist instead of hating the terrorism.
Well, it makes you wonder, and then it makes you ask the general question, does it not, Jeremy Hanson? Oh my God, we've gone 9:05 and I haven't even identified. anything. By the way, I'm BZ. That's Jeremy Hanson. You're listening to the SHR Media Network, and I enjoy the hell out of stuff like this. And thank you for being here tonight. Where was this guy radicalized? How was this guy radicalized? Was he radicalized from the beginning? There are a ton of questions. And then there's this. Let me go here just for a second. I think this one is a little low. I might have to do something with the volume. I have a backup just in case.
Patrick said we'll be taking over the investigative lead for this event. This is not a terrorist event. Okay, stop.
I don't know if you guys heard. She said this is not a terrorist event. This was yesterday. I think this has better volume. Let me see if I can play this one. The other thing that I have to point out is this individual is an ASAC of the New Orleans FBI office. Now, in every field office, there's a SAC, the special agent in charge, which is the head dude or dudette. Then there's the assistant special agent in charge, which is the number 2 person in every field office. They all have a SAC and an ASAC. This bint here is the ASAC. And something happened, and then they made a mistake, and they tried to wildly correct their mistake. But let's listen to the FBI. And then I'd like to make a comment in the end, and I would like your comment too, please, Jeremy Hanson.
This is not a terrorist event. What it is right now is their improvised explosive devices that was found. And we are working on confirming if it's a viable device or not. As Chief Kirkpatrick said, we're asking everyone to stay away from Bourbon Street, specifically from Canal Street to St. Anne. That is my...
Okay, the details right now at this point are immaterial. Okay, when you heard that, wherever you were or whatever you were doing, Jeremy Hanson, the first thing that you intuited is, you are full of shit. Or am I just way out?
100%. You're full of shit. Song and dance. Heard it before. Don't piss down my back and tell me it's raining.
But this is the point of starting when we have watched, as you indicated, we watched what happened in New York. We've watched this same crap happen all over Europe and the UK. We've seen and heard and read this story before. We know it when we see it. We know it when we smell it and taste it. And we see its death. And you're going to lie to us like this? Really? And this is why? You wonder, oh my God, I don't understand. I don't understand. How can they not believe us? And then what happened is they sent the big dogs.
Online platform proclaiming his support for ISIS. There were 5 videos posted on Jabbar's Facebook account, which are timestamped beginning at 1:29 a.m.
Okay, let me tell you who this guy is. This guy is a big dude from DC, Christopher Raya. He's a high up. So they flew this guy in a private, or I should say, a government jet from DC the same day down to New Orleans to try to do damage control the next day because what that other bint said was so ridiculous. They sent a high up from DC to come down to New Orleans and do damage control. That's who this guy is.
And the last at 3:02 a.m. In the first video, Jabbar explains he originally planned to harm his family and friends, but was concerned the news headlines would not focus on the, quote, war between the believers and the disbelievers, end quote. Additionally, he stated he had joined ISIS before this summer. He also provided a will and testament. FBI and ATF. FBI, we have a couple different scenes.
So let me stop right there. This guy actually sounds fairly cogent. And he continued.
First and foremost, let me be very clear about this point. This was an act of terrorism. It was premeditated and an evil act.
Okay, that's not what you said the day before, FBI, and everyone knew what it was. That's the only reason that they sent this guy 1,000 miles from D.C. down south on a government jet overnight to do damage control, because I can guarantee you right now, well, no, I can't. No, I can't. I can't guarantee you that ASAC isn't going to get a better job in D.C. somewhere, because she's a twofer, at least a one-fer. No, she's a twofer. She might be a threefer. I'm not sure, but they had to saddle up this stuff quick.
This was obviously a critical incident, and with that, lots of information and tips come pouring in from law enforcement, first responders, and the public. We have been aggressively running down these.
Okay, so this is a guy that basically cocked his fist and blasted it into the face of the chick that spoke yesterday, because he had to. There was no other option at that point.
Tips and information. As you all know, that takes time, and we will continue to do so until every lead has been followed through on.
So this is unique. This is an FBI agent saying what we already know, but we can't trust the FBI itself generally to say, because we heard that particular ASAC, that's a sought after, powerful position in every field office across the United States in the FBI. Any thoughts on that, Jeremy Hanson?
Absolutely. I want to frame this so people can understand this. The U.S. government, including the FBI, the CIA, the low down, dirty, rotten bastards that they are, I don't trust any of them, and I haven't, especially since I started doing deep dives into this stuff. But here's what America does. We don't want the people that have the oil to have money anymore. So the government says, you know what, we're going to change things up. The people won't buy electric cars, so we are going to take money and we're going to give people discounts, and we're going to pay companies to build these electric cars and appease the globalists. They do the exact same thing, but with propaganda in the media. So they will put out and they'll say, well, we'll allow you to do this, or we'll put money over there, or we'll push people this way if you report this. So what happened there, Beezy, and this is my thinking, is they didn't want that story to come out. Something happened where they had to fly, like you said, a guy from DC out there. They knew this was going to get out. They knew that it was going to get ugly. And they actually admitted this, because how many times have we actually seen this be admitted, especially that fast?
That was rapid.
Yes. And that doesn't happen, folks. So I'm telling you, something went wrong with their plan. Their propaganda couldn't spin for some reason. And I don't know what the reason is. I think it has to do with the other guy in Vegas, but I'm not going to go there until you're ready to go there with him.
Okay.
But there's something else that happened. And I think it happened in Mexico, because both of them happened to go to Mexico and we don't know why. But anyways, that's my thing. The American government controls propaganda just like it controls markets, and they will do whatever's necessary to make sure that they're out in front of something. And this thing that happened in New Orleans was an anomaly. I can't believe, and especially because he was Islamist. We never hear about that within 2 days. You never hear a name like that, Shamsuddin Jabbar. You don't hear names like that for a couple days. And you really don't start hearing the other things like his Airbnb. You never get the back information within 24 hours. Have you ever seen that, BZ?
That hasn't happened in a long time. Everybody remembers San Bernardino, where the local law enforcement and the FBI didn't want to reveal who the wife, the husband and wife folks were in the SUV, We didn't want to give them their names. We didn't want to have anything to do with that. We didn't want to admit what it was. So, yeah, very easy. Very easy. This is unique. This is very unique, which tells me one very important thing that I'll get to. Please continue, Jeremy Hanson.
Well, with this being unique, I don't trust it because you can't ever trust anything new. I was literally sitting here. I heard about it and I was like, well, in a couple of days, we're going to hear, because I knew what it was already. They've been telling us that this is going to happen. It is kind of funny that it happens right away in 2025. And here's the other thing, folks. We know for a fact that it goes far, far beyond just the people that came through our borders. Way back when Obama was around, he allowed Iranian, it would be the equivalent to our Green Berets, to come over here and spy on Jewish synagogues. Remember, they hate Americans, okay? And they are here to destroy us. So I thought maybe it was one of them, but something happened here where these guys are connected. We're never going to know. And this is what Americans have to learn. You will never get the truth, because all it takes to destroy the truth is one seed of doubt. And you'll always be second questioning it. Always. Just like, how long has JFK went on now? How many people really believed that he sat up there in a book suppository building and literally shot him from up? Do you actually believe that?
Oh, God. Okay. You open that door and I will walk through it as briefly as I can. There were two shooters. I was a range master. When I was range master for my department, I had to know something, and all cops have to know something about ballistics. Ballistics in terms of glass, ballistics in terms of metal. You get to know about the reaction of bullets and how to identify bullets and what keyholing is. You have to be familiar with that, because you become an expert in terms of testimony, and they do your voir dire, and then you get up there and you testify as an expert, as a range master. I can tell you that in the Zapruder film, whatever frame it is, there may have been a shot or something from behind when Kennedy first grips his throat. But the kill shot, because if you notice, X100, the Lincoln, the open top Lincoln, that's a story for another day, the open top car. That having been said, the kill shot came from the front, because that car was not traveling at that time very rapidly, probably about 10, maybe 15 miles an hour. So the directionality of the tissue and the ejecta from the head of JFK is a clear indicator of source and origin and where that bullet went. So it was bullshit. For those of you who just tuned in, it was bullshit. There were two guns, and the big kill shot was from somewhere. Not going to say where, don't know where, maybe the grassy knoll, not for me to say. The kill shot was from the front, and it wasn't a handgun, it was a rifle of a fair caliber.
So, to say that, we're saying that the government has been lying to us from day one. I remember being very young, being home from work and watching Clinton speak and apologizing to the members of the family of the Tuskegee experiment. I remember watching it, and I thought to myself at that time, man, this is America. We don't do that to people. And ever since then, it's just been a downhill journey, almost like a sled down a snow-filled hill. Thinking about what my government has lied about and what it is lying about. Now, the truth is, and I'm going to bring this up, but you probably don't want to go here. When the government can tell me things like, well, we don't know what the drones are, but they're no harm to us. Are they lying to me, or are they ignorant? What is it?
Well, That's going to be a huge question in the show that I'm going to be doing on the drones. Here's something interesting. Have you noticed how all that shit has just drifted away now, Jeremy Hanson? It had its time, its primacy. Now it's gone. But those are the only two options. Either the government knows about it and is covering it up, or it is absolutely brain-glazingly, stultifyingly ignorant. There are no in-betweens on that at all.
Amen. Yeah, well, everybody's forgotten about the shooting that took place in Vegas. You remember that?
Oh, sure.
Okay, and now I know, I mean, I literally personally know shooters that shoot for our government around the world. I know them personally. I know what they're capable of. Awesome, great marksmen. Those guys couldn't do what he did up there. And I know what they tell the people, where the people will believe this shit, like listening to how those were shooting. And they're, well, one guy could do it. No, one guy couldn't do it. One guy couldn't do it as fast as he did it. And that's if you completely take away everything from the black helicopters to the other people down the street. It's every single time we have something like this, there is a big deal that you have to forget. And then if you can forget about it, like you said, for a week because it goes away, then they can start calling people conspiracy theorists about truth that was relevant at the time that people have just forgotten about now. And I think this may be one of those situations. And I truly believe that the globalists that are pushing this, they don't care if you're Iranian, they don't care if you're American, they don't care if you're Russian. You're just, the people in general are an obstacle to them. And
well, you are a pawn to be moved on a chessboard at their whim.
100%.
October 1st, 2017. The dude's name was Stephen Paddock.
Correct.
And he was in the Mandalay Bay motel.
Yep.
And he shoots more than, I think it was at least 1,000 rounds. He kills 60 people. He wounds 800 and some odd. And then it ends up that because of the stampeding, etc., even more people were injured because of that. And people ask, well, how did he get all those guns up there? Oh, come on, dude. Don't be stupid. He had them in a cart. Nobody thinks about that kind of stuff. That was unprecedented at the time. Nobody thought, okay, I'll have 4 duffel bags of long guns and massive amounts of ammunition on a couple of carts, and I'll bring them up to a room, and then somehow I'll get through a window and I'll be shooting people from a wonderful vantage point. And Las Vegas Metro never came up with any kind of an answer. To this day, there is no answer as to really who he was, where he came from, what were his motivations.
Except for he worked with the FBI.
Well, it was supposed that he worked for or with, or maybe was some sort of a CI with an alphabet agency.
Yes, that's a better way to put it. Yeah. We don't want to be too direct.
Yeah.
But the truth is, people have forgotten about that now. Like our kids, they're not taught anything about that. And this shit has been happening over and over and over and over and over again. And people are just getting desensitized to it. Like you talk about the van that ran into those people. Was that in Philadelphia or New York 2 years ago?
New York.
It was in New York. People don't even remember that. They're like, oh, well, are you talking about in New York or are you talking about the one in France where the guy ran?
Exactly, because it's endemic.
Correct. So why are we having this conversation exactly?
Well, let me show you something that's very interesting. That I sift social media like look at me, folks. Let me get this out of here just for a second.
Look at me shortly.
Look at the size of me. I am a massive baleen whale. You'll not see a person of my size and girth and age in quite some time. So this is what I do. I am the social media baleen whale. I am, of course, your conservative Sherpa, but I'm a baleen whale and I find crazy shit like this. Well, the U.S. government admitted that more than 400 ISIS-affiliated migrants, air quotes, migrants, infiltrated the U.S. 50 of them they can't account for. Now, look at this guy. Listen to this guy and what he says. Now, the guy that we're talking about is this guy up here in the glasses, right here. Listen to what he has to say.
By the way, if you are smart enough, you will know who I am. But you are really not smart enough to know who I am. But soon you're going to know who I am. Very easy.
Wow, very easy. The entitlement.
No, believe me, I'm much better than that.
The entitlement, guys. Wow.
You will see soon. By the way, if you are smart enough.
So who is this guy? Nobody knows. Or if they know, they're not saying. But this is one in any number of untold individuals who have simply walked across an imaginary line. You don't even have to worry about a fence anymore. At worst, maybe you'll get your ankles moist in the Rio Grande, and that's about it. And then these people come here. They are here. So this guy Jabbar drives a truck, a Ford F-150 Lightning, and then he not only crashes barricades, and I use that term lightly, barricades, and then he comes out shooting.
What the fuck? I got this fucking done.
And so I think one can adequately surmise that he wasn't playing. Not that day. And my God, Jeremy Hanson, this is what we get from Joe Biden.
Good evening. I know I can speak for all Americans when I say our hearts are with the people of New Orleans after the despicable attack that occurred in the early morning hours. To all the families of those who were killed, to all those who were injured, to all the people of New Orleans who are grieving today.
All those people are injured.
I grieve with you. Our nation grieves with you. We're going to stand with you as you mourn and as you heal in the weeks to come. I want to thank our brave first responders and law enforcement personnel who stopped the attacker in his tracks before he could kill or injure even more people.
Let me ask you this, Jeremy Hanson. Did this man give a shit about the people who were poisoned in East Palestine? I don't think so. No. Did this man give a shit about anyone that was displaced or killed or burned alive in Hawaii?
No.
I don't think so. Was he even remotely interested back in terms of Benghazi? Was he even interested in terms of Hurricane Helene? The federal government let those people, I should say Lahaina, not Hawaii. It was Lahaina. The motivation behind that, because this is my show and it's my belief, was all about property. I went to Lahaina. It's a beautiful little town. Boy, sure would be sad if you were burned the fuck up out of Lahaina and then all that empty land got purchased by big-ass hotels and conglomerates. Nice shore you got there. Does he care about this?
I want to thank you to everyone at the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Justice, including the FBI, for working nonstop to investigate this heinous act. The FBI is leading the investigation to determine what happened,
The FBI is
why it happened, whether there was any continuing threat to public safety. Here's what we know so far. The FBI has reported to me the killer was an American citizen, born in Texas. He served in the United States Army on active duty for many years. He also served in the Army Reserve until a few years ago. The FBI also reported to me.
Guaranteed, his handlers said once they discovered that he was born in America, that he wasn't some kind of an import from Saudi Arabia. A lot of them went, oh, thank God.
That mere hours before the attack, he posted videos on social media indicating that he was inspired by ISIS, expressing a desire to kill. The ISIS flag was found in his vehicle.
Oh, but remember, ASAC, that because he had an ISIS flag on his truck after killing 14 people, he wasn't a terrorist. Come on, get a grip.
Which he rented to conduct this attack. Possible explosives were found in the vehicle as well.
Explosives.
And more explosives were found nearby. The situation is very fluid, and the investigation has a preliminary stage. And the fact is that
this is a good part. You're going to enjoy this, folks.
now, excuse me. There you go.
He lost his place in the teleprompter. Not kidding. You can't make this shit up, Jake. It writes itself. It writes itself. Here's 8 minutes. I don't know if you've seen this before. This is 8.5 minutes, which I think is worth playing, of a CIA officer by the name of Sarah Adams. She has warned us, by the way, this occurred about 3 weeks or so prior to what occurred. And this is on the Sean Ryan show. So let's listen and watch this.
I just want to clarify. You are 100% certain that there are 1,000 plus Al-Qaeda trained fighters within the United States borders?
Well,
okay, stop. Just 1 second. Because while Jeremy was talking, I found this. There are terror cells, if you don't already know, there are terror cells already here in the United States. America in danger. This is from a Canadian broadcast. A story. America in danger. Hamas and Hezbollah sleeper cells are here in the United States. Oh, BZ, you big conspiracist. No, that can't possibly be happening. Well, yeah, as a matter of fact, it is happening. Let's continue.
Al-Qaeda says they trained and deployed 1,000 for this attack. First off, I think there's more than 1,000 Al-Qaeda members in the United States. But for the Homeland attack, that number is based on what Al-Qaeda is saying. So they could exaggerate it. However, they did have about 1,400 in the Hamas attack. So the number is not off from what they did in the first round of attacks.
How old is this information?
I mean, it's ongoing. So the training's already done, right? So all the training info is now old because they trained all the Homeland attackers, if that makes sense. So like next week, you're not going to get info of a Homeland attacker probably at a terrorist camp because it's already done. So all this has been in the last year.
So it's been over a year. It's been a year.
Because this was a continuation. So they planned October 7th first, and then they rolled into planning this after.
Are we next or is Europe next?
I think the embassy attacks are next, in my opinion.
What are they waiting for the embassies?
I don't think they're waiting. I think it took time to train them. They've now approved them, and they've now moved into the operational stage. So we first talked about what they call the invisible bomb. It was Al-Qaeda's in the Arab Peninsula, so their branch in Yemen, right? And they basically were showing off. It's really interesting. The video got taken down right away. And then I think most people in the US didn't even see it. So like TSA completely ignored putting out the actual piece of the video that mattered. And so the big piece of the video was teaching terrorists how to make a bomb that goes through a magnetometer. So, you know, like most airports in the world, you don't have that weird hand scan thing. You just go through a random metal detector. So this bomb basically goes to the metal detector, okay? So they were showing it off then. Well, now Al-Qaeda's advanced and it's in a suicide vest. But the interesting part is it doesn't just go supposedly through the metal detector. They made it with components dogs aren't trained on to sniff. So if you say, okay, well, we'll up our security and put more dogs, Al-Qaeda is saying, well, we've defeated that too. And this is the type of vest they plan to use potentially in their homeland attack that's coming up. So it's very concerning because we aren't prepared for that. I mean, most of the buildings you go into, even if they have some sort of thing, it's already defeats that.
I mean, I don't think we're prepared for anything that's coming.
Right.
We weren't prepared for this. I'm running out of time, so I can't continue with that. Let me pull this out and go over here. The chief of police is called a superintendent. And the chief of police was essentially a blithering moron. The chief of police said that they had bollards, which are if you've been to DC particularly, or if you've been to an embassy, like an Embassy Row in DC or Embassy Row in San Francisco, bollards are these things that protect entrances and exits, that keep vehicles from entering. Well, they had bollards that were down and weren't repaired. They weren't prepared for this. They had barriers. They had signs up that said, "Caution, terrorists go away." If you also look, you'll see a police car in the video that's parallel with the road, not blocking the road, and the pickup truck, the F-150 Lightning EV that's being driven by the suspect, hits the sidewalks. They knew what was going on. The superintendent said that, well, we did harden those target areas where the bollards previously were with patrol cars. We did have a car there. We had barriers there. We had officers there, and they still got around. Damn me. How did that possibly happen? I will tell you how and why. Failure of imagination. Failure of imagination. The inability to think like people need to think. The chief is a moron. They did almost nothing to protect citizens in that special event. The police vehicle, like I said, wasn't even sideways in the street. Citizens are dead. The mayor is equally culpable. They knew of the security issues. They could have approved the funds some time ago, but they weren't particularly motivated to do it then. She said, Ann Kilpatrick said at the news conference, police were aware of the security issue and they hardened those areas, but they still got around. How did they do that? They're not supposed to do that. Well, let me tell you a little bit about Chief Kirkpatrick. Chief Kirkpatrick served as a chief of police in Washington, in a little town in Ellensburg, Federal Way, also in Spokane. By the way, folks that are in Idaho call Spokane Spokompton. In the entire state of Washington. Then she goes to Oakland, gets and steps in crap in Oakland, and then she goes to NOLA. Imagine that. That's kind of tough. And she blames that on the bollards. Let's watch this video just for a second. So this guy Jabbar, they found bomb-making materials at his Airbnb. Some kind of a fire breaks out in the neighborhood. So they discovered IED materials. They send the bomb squad over, and they find all of these. So it's no shock, or shouldn't be a shock. Now let's go. This is the interesting part. I think essentially, and Jeremy Hanson, weigh in on this if you would, please. I think we've gone just about as far as we can go with regard to this Jabbar dude. And usually I say that there are happy stories involved in some things. This is the dude. And this is the dude. And this is the happy story. This is the dude. Fuck you. Guy weighs a little bit more in death than he did in life. But again, as we were talking before earlier, this is the FBI. This is the Pentagon under Biden. The extremism we really have to worry about is white nationalism. And that's where the focus was. And so the alphabet agencies, Garland, Mayorkas, Ray, they all say white supremacists are the top terrorist concern of us right now and have been. And those horrible damn soccer moms who get into school meetings and speak their mind, damn them. They need to be investigated. So I think we're going to find out more about this guy, where and when he was radicalized. My biggest question is, it seems as though, and I understand, Fort Bragg, now named Fort Liberty, a shit ton of people go through Fort Bragg, obviously. And there was a confluence between the guy that we're going to be talking about in Las Vegas and this Jabbar dude. And like I said earlier, what's the Army doing for vetting individuals? I'm not confident. Any kind of wrap-up words about where we are going at this point, Jeremy Hanson, with regard to what occurred with Jabbar, to include, did he have friends? Did he have people that were assisting him? Was he the perennial lone wolf, Jeremy Hanson?
Well, if you remember General Austin, when he was being drilled to go to the Pentagon to begin with, a lot of these questions were being answered. What do you think about Islamic extremism or even Christian extremism, things like that. And his answers at that time were white nationalism is, that's the real threat. That's the big problem. And he was telling the truth from the perspective of the people pushing the bullshit. If you think, and you just sit back, folks, and just clear-minded, sit down and think, what is the whole world complaining about? Well, white power, racism, white privilege, all of those things. He wasn't talking to our government when he was saying that. He was literally saying that to the powers that be. And I agree with you 100%, BZ. I don't think that people like him care about this, except for the black eye they're going to get for it. But do they really want to stop any of this kind of stuff? Because I grew up in a world where if something like this happened when I was younger, it was huge news, and everybody, didn't matter your color, your race. It just didn't matter. They thought it was despicable. Everybody was, saying how bad it was. And I'm literally watching, like, you go on TikTok today and you look, and they talk about this poor guy fighting. He's a freedom fighter.
Of course he is.
It's not, terrorism isn't the problem. It's the way that we treat them. And just by calling them terrorists, we're exercising our white supremacy. And it's
the stigma. They're stigmatized, poor bastards.
Yeah. Because, whatever they want to say, we're old enough. We've seen enough. If it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, I'm going to call it a duck. And I really don't care if anybody else has a problem with that. just because of the things that I've been through, my anecdotal experiences have told me that I need to do this. And that's why I think, and me and you've talked about this, we need to become very vigilant in our local areas, because I don't know what the hell we can do federally to help with a problem like this, even for them to expose this before it happens, because I'm willing to bet 10 donuts to $1 that some of these things they knew were going to happen, but they didn't do anything because it might look racist if they did it.
I completely concur with you, because history has proven this to be true, especially with regard to white people. What I call gaups. Angela Merkel was a gaup. A gaup is a guilty, overeducated white person who feels guilty about, I don't know, whatever the fuck, fill in the blank. You know, the breastfeeding du jour, whatever that might be. You know, we had the luxury of navel gazing for years, and we've forgotten completely about 9/11. Now, say what you will about 9/11, Bush generally fucked that up by the numbers. The Patriot Act, which absolutely wasn't. The creation of an entirely massive new unit, Homeland Security. You know, did anyone stop to think, well, let's see, the CIA wasn't talking to the FBI because they're information hoarders, and whoever holds the information gets the power and the control, which then yields the money. So I know, here's a great suggestion. We'll violate the shit out of everyone's constitutional rights regarding the Fourth, and then we'll create another burgeoning, bloated, massive agency to ensure that no one else in the federal government does, in fact, talk to each other anymore. We've created another massive, bombastic unit that doesn't want to share information with other people, because that's the nature of what goes on. Let's play this now. This confuses the shit out of me. This guy in Las Vegas. Here's what happens. There's the Tesla. It's in front of the little driveway in front of Trump Tower. And essentially, here's what you're going to see. Because we have more information about this, and I've got a couple of videos to play yet. The Tesla park's right there. Apparently, the guy from inside, who is not a former Green Beret, he's an active duty Green Beret in U.S. Army Special Forces. He's on a break from Germany. He rents this car. It's an EV pickup, like the other one, on another app called, I think, Turo, something like that. It's Turo. It's basically a low rent app for renting vehicles. He's inside the vehicle. The guy's got a Desert Eagle 50 caliber AE gun that apparently he uses to shoot himself. He triggers some kind of an explosion in the back of and we'll get to that about the explosion, but here's what's happened from the video.
Copy. Copy.
Okay, so what doesn't happen, though, is it doesn't blow the doors and the windows out in that little revolving access area in the Trump Towers. So here comes the confusing part. And Jeremy, I would love to have you address this. This guy's 37 years old. His name is Matthew Livelsberger. I think I've got that right. He's active duty from Special Forces. Like I said, he's on leave from Germany. He puts fireworks and camping fuel and a gas can in the back of that Tesla. So this dude is an explosives expert. When I was on EOD, I went to the Redstone Arsenal to learn about this stuff that goes boomity bang and bangity boom. And it was fun. But everybody that goes through EOD and the Army, they all go through Redstone Arsenal. It might be called something different now. This was a long time ago. So you know this guy knew explosives, not just gas cans and fireworks. My guess would be that if this guy really wanted to do some serious damage, he could have cobbled up something eminently more serious than this. And he shot himself in front of the Trump Hotel. He evidently liked Trump. Why the Tesla truck? What's the deal with the Turo app between these two guys? I have to ask myself, this again stinks to high heaven. Yes, there are commonalities. Are they going where I think they're going to go? I'm not sure. Not with this guy. So the other thing that I had to ask myself, apparently he was married. Apparently he had kids. So the other thing that I had to ask myself is, because we've seen this program before, did this guy have PTSD? Did he have issues with the VA? Was this guy ignored? What message was he trying to send? Why that truck? Why crappy explosives? Why shoot himself in the head in a Tesla truck that looks like a dumpster in front of the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas? Why? Jeremy Hanson, I'm open. I'm open for suggestions and thoughts.
Okay, so what's weird about him and the other guy is they both went into Mexico. They know that they both went into Mexico. They don't know what for. So we do know that the cartel, is that okay to say? the cartel are pissed off. You have these groups that the cartel have been pushing through, which happen to be radical Islamists. We know that. Those are both facts. You have these two guys using the same apps. They went to Fort Bragg together, or Camp Liberty, whatever they call it now. They were there. This guy comes from Germany. Now, this is the best of the best. This is our Green Beret, the 10th. He was
Special Forces dude. Yeah.
Correct. So then he goes up to Colorado, back down to Arizona, into New Mexico. He didn't pick a direct route like I'm going to go there. It was almost like, this was a coordinated thing. But here's what I don't get, okay? When they found him inside, they found every single piece of available identification, almost like an FBI dream job. If you were trying to figure out where somebody was, he was in that car. He shot himself. He didn't burn up. He didn't blow up. They had his tattoos to go off of.
Exactly.
They had his license. They had his insurance. They had his passport. They had like 5 different types of identification sitting next to him. And I think it was even something like his registration for his firearm. Okay, that doesn't happen in the real world to people that are investigating a crime. Then you take this guy that is a Green Beret. Okay, and listen to this. It says there was a combination of fireworks, gas tanks, camping fuel in the bed of the vehicle that were detonated by a device controlled by the driver.
Exactly.
This guy's Green Beret. If you notice the blast cycle or the blast trajectory, it went straight up. It went, yes, did it hurt people? Well, of course. You can do that with a gallon of gasoline if you do it the right way. But what I'm saying, this guy knew a whole lot more than he did. I don't know why this happened this way, and I don't know what connection they do have, but I do know that they said that there's other people of interest in New Orleans. Okay. Now, when we get that information, if we get that information, were they also using the same app? Were they also part of the military? It's just weird that these people happen to know some of the same people. They were in the same place. And the difference is this guy, they haven't said that he's radicalized. They can't tell why he did it. Like you said, according to all accounts, he liked Trump. Did he get himself involved in something where this is complete speculation, by the way, but I'm just telling you how I feel.
This is what the show is for.
Is this guy, okay? Like if somebody came up to me and said, your family's goners unless you do this, I'm going to do it in a heartbeat because I love my family. This guy had nothing to gain. As far as I know, he's not radicalized. As a matter of fact, he liked Trump, and he goes there and he does the least amount of damage that he possibly could do with the things that he had. And we know that he took this weird zigzagging route to get to Vegas. But my whole thing with all of this, if you're in a group like ISIS or you're pro-ISIS, you go to great lengths to make sure that they can't find out who you are or who you're around. But this guy, he had everything. It was like a FBI member's dream going into that truck with everything that they got. Do you know anybody that's ever happened to that easy?
No, that's why this, I was like Stephen Paddock, none of that crap passed the smell test. San Bernardino, none of that crap passed the smell test. I get the dude in NOLA, radicalized, we'll find out where and how. ISIS flag, hello, that's called a clue. On this planet, an ISIS flag is a clue. But all these trucks were trackable and traceable. If they're rental vehicles, they're being traced, including that Tesla. Perhaps even by the nature of the Tesla itself. I don't drive one, so I don't know. But maybe Elon flipped a switch and can track any and every Tesla. I don't know. But a rental is certainly tracked. And that's how they knew where he was. But very little of the Las Vegas dude makes sense. But I will say this. If you conduct a news conference, this is pretty much how you're supposed to do it.
Complicating this identification of this individual, we also discovered through the coroner's office that the individual had sustained a gunshot wound to the head prior to the detonation of the vehicle. One of the handguns was found at his feet inside of the vehicle. Now, further complicating this identification of this individual, we also discovered through the coroner's office that the individual had sustained a gunshot wound to the head prior to the detonation of the vehicle. One of the handguns was found at his feet inside of the vehicle. Now, further complicating this identification of this individual.
Well, a Desert Eagle 50 cal will do that. It will make a mark that won't buff out. But this is how you conduct a news conference, as opposed to some of the others that were there. I want to show this just for a second, because this is how craven are the American media maggots. New York Times, one dead after a cyber truck explodes out of the Trump Tower. The other one, Reuters, Tesla Cybertruck explodes outside Trump Las Vegas hotel, killing driver. Well, it must have been the battery, right? Because that's why batteries look like fireworks. Tesla Cybertruck, USA Today, explodes outside Trump hotel in Las Vegas. 1 dead, 7 injured. Oh, but that's not weird. I guess that's kind of normal. It's what you expect anyway. Is it? Is it what you expect? So I have to ask you, Jeremy Hanson, because I know you got to go. I mean, it's, let's see, it's almost midnight where you are right now. As a matter of fact, I think it is midnight where you are. So can you kind of sort of summarize what occurred in New Orleans and then kind of move over to Las Vegas and just, weigh in on just the general and more specific aspects? And then I have a question for the both of us after that.
Okay, so number one with New Orleans, we're watching what we expected to watch, what we've been told is going to happen. It's just unfolding right in front of our eyes. And for some reason, the media hooked onto this one. And they said, hey, we're going to run with this. We're going to show people this. Now, why? I don't know. But again, it doesn't pass the smell test. And again, I really don't like it when our military members are involved.
No.
Now, are they getting radicalized? Obviously. We have intel reports that say that. What have they done with them? Absolutely nothing. But not just that. It's happening all over the U.S., and it has been happening at frequency rates more than we've ever seen. Now, you can say that that's, because of economic disparity. You could say whatever the hell you want. But the truth is, we don't have an adhesion of the American people right now. And it feels like we're in a civil war that is being directed by globalists. Then when we go over to Vegas, this one, when you said it doesn't pass the smell test, it's far beyond not having the correct smell. It doesn't have the correct sight, smell, taste, nothing.
Exactly.
There's nothing about this. His own family members came out and said, we don't understand this.
No,
He loved the president-elect. He loved our country. He would never do this. And, you've got almost like kids put some gas cans and fireworks in the back, and, an IED, that can be literally anything. He could have started a coil on fire by calling a phone number with it. So we don't know. But I do know, even if you watch that video where it explodes and you see the little that's all fireworks right there.
That's all it is. Just fireworks. And they do almost nothing.
Exactly. So
in that kind of a setting.
Exactly. Now, you could change things. And here's the thing. This guy knew how to change things. If he wanted to cause some serious damage, he could have.
Oh, he knows what deflagration is as opposed to detonation. Guaranteed.
Exactly. So you take that, and then you take the other things that we were talking about earlier, these things flying in the sky that we don't know what's going on. These billions of dollars that have came up missing that we don't know what's going on. The people that are scared to death that the incoming administration is going to actually start putting people in jail. You got this mega civil war, quotations, going on right now. You have half the Republican Party scared of what's going on. I think that we're not going to know anything. And I actually think things are going to get worse until the American people have had enough. And they say, I can't trust my government. My government is not my fearful master anymore. They don't care about me. And my belief is this is being done out of fear. And it's being done from a point of degradation to smash America by the globalists. And I don't believe our government can save us. I don't. It's only us getting together, doing what we need to do as the American people and standing together, because a lot of people like talking shit about what the government does and what the government doesn't do. But here's two things to remember. Do you remember Katrina? And do you remember 9/11?
Certainly.
Those were black, white, red, yellow, Hindu, Muslim, a Christian. Everybody came together as Americans.
Yep.
And that scares our government to death. And it's things like this that I have watched them do for years now, where they stick a key in and they like to twist and tear the fabric of America apart. And I'm done with it, if you know what I'm saying.
Oh, I know exactly what you're saying. By the way, thanks to everybody. We're at 114 live viewers right now, which for me is semi-unprecedented. I made it to 180 on Tuesday. So thanks to everybody for watching, and thanks to everybody for watching later on in podcast. In the chat, Sean Stroich says, question, what about this? What else is happening? What are we not seeing? That's an excellent question. What aren't we seeing? I fervently believe there is an underlying subtext to all of this. So like Stephen Paddock, I know it's there. I can see it. I can smell it. My spidey sense is tingling because of that. Will we ever find out? Will it be the the quintessential, well, we're never going to find out what the motivation was behind Stephen Paddock, or was he just a murderous son of a bitch? But Sean is right. What are we not seeing? What is, in fact, the underlying subtext behind this? And also Cheetah in chat said, by the way, he picked the wrong truck. This is the guy in Vegas. The Cyber truck is essentially bulletproof. I wasn't aware of that. I've never driven a Tesla, so I wouldn't know about that. But if Cheetah says so, I'm going to believe him. But there are commonalities, and yet you can't say they all dovetail going in one direction. I grok the dude in New Orleans. This thing about Matthew in Las Vegas, I don't know.
How about BZ? How about stuff right in front of our face? Let's go. Let's walk back a year ago.
Sure. Okay.
Chinese weather balloon flying across America. Don't know what it is. Don't know if it's got a bomb. Don't go. But we let it fly over, and in the meantime, we've got House members saying, well, it's taking surveillance of the topography of America and it's reporting back to them, but they wouldn't shoot it down until it got off the coast. Okay. It's right in front of our face. The American government doesn't know what to do.
It starts in Alaska. Do you think an American balloon sent anywhere near China or Russia would survive a microsecond once it got within their 12-mile limit of their nation? The answer is not just no, but extra crispy, lighted on fire. Fuck no. That would never have occurred. So,
can I give you my conspiracy?
Oh, hell to the yeah.
Okay, so here's my conspiracy. We're not fighting conventional people anymore. We're not fighting Russia. We're not fighting this. We're fighting little sects and groups of people. It's a new age type of warfare. And I think that the U.S. government looked at that weather balloon and said, there might be some sort of germ warfare on there that they're letting us do it to ourselves. And if we shoot it down over land, this germ could go across and we could have, I'm being funny, but a zombie apocalypse. There could be unleashed this disease that's something because we don't know. Because we don't know who we're fighting. We don't know where it came from. The truth is things like drones can be bought by the highest bidder. It doesn't have to be a government anymore. And chemists and physicists have gotten so good at bringing death and destruction to people, not just the American people. We don't know what we're dealing with any longer.
And I would care to add, we have individuals like this who are ignorant and weak. The UK has its own equivalent of a shit ton of Neville Chamberlains. We have this fucking idiot. And he and the rest of his government cronies, Mayorkas, Merrick Garland, they have blood on their hands also. And the people that are pulling the strings, Obama, Susan Rice, Valerie Jarrett, Ron Klain, et al., who are making this guy, I learned this in like the second or third grade. And this is why I call people Stegosaurus. I learned the Stegosaurus had a brain in it. It was multiple tons in weight, but it had a brain the size of a walnut. And then it had a separate ganglion of nerves in its hips to make its rear legs move. And that's what typifies, that's Joe Biden. He's a Stegosaurus. He has a walnut brain and a ganglion of nerves to make his legs move for a while. That's who we have. Weakness engenders and asks, damn near demands people to take advantage of weakness and a vacuum. A vacuum will always be filled. Trump is not here to create a vacuum. Dad was in the Air Force. We moved to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And we had generals over to dinner all the time. Beautiful house, 444 E Street, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. One general came over one time. I don't remember the guy's name. But somehow headaches came into the conversation. And the guy said, I don't get headaches. I give them. Now, that's the kind of guy that I want fighting for us. I want a George Smith Patton fighting for us. I don't want a Mark Milley, a pussy. I don't want a Lloyd Austin, a pussy. I don't want a commander-in-chief, a vegetable, and a pussy in control of this nation. It's as simple as that. Jeremy Hanson, any final words or observations, sir?
Well, again, you've done it. You bring some insights that other people can't do, man. You're awesome. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. I love coming on this show every time I can, because you can say what you actually feel, and it feels pretty good.
It does, and if I get 3 viewers for my occasional Sunday show, access denied, 404 forbidden. Just the name of that show I created to see how I get off with his head, metaphorically and physically, if we could get away with it. So I love to have you here. Anybody that's here, I always want to hear them. I want to hear everything you have to say. I don't want any censorship whatsoever. I want it unexpurgated. I want it live. I want true feelings, true facts. If you think something, I want to hear it. And that's like the people that are in chat. I want to hear what you think and what you say in chat. I wish I'd thought to open the damn phones, because people would have called in. If I get enough people that are interested, maybe I can get some wild ass phone calls going on later on in the various shows that are coming. But I will never censor myself. Damn it, producer. Would you wake up? I will never censor myself. And especially now, because, as most people realize, my filter is broken and I don't care. And being aged and fat and the precipice of darkness is rather liberating, as a matter of fact, because that's when you embrace your full 100% body hug. I don't give a fuck, and that's where I am right now. I kind of like it, as a matter of fact. So, Jeremy Hanson, tell us about your podcast. Tell us what it's about. 46th. Oh, this was so cool when you said this. Say it again. I say it again. Jeremy Hanson, I just like to hear you say this. Go.
Well, we're 46th in the world.
In the world.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. It said that when I hit it, they sent me this thing. It said, you're 46th out of 1.95 million podcasts. And it made me have a little bit of giggle, if you know what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah.
But,
baby,
I love America. I love family. I love business. I really love business. I've been burnt out on politics for a long time. I'd rather talk about patriotism and building up America. Or, if we got to fight, we got to fight. But it is what it is. And I'm pretty happy where I'm at. I love coming here to your show. You can watch me at Apple Podcasts, anywhere but Spotify, because they kicked me off again. And if you want, you can go watch my wife's show, We Are the Hansons. That gets into the, like the side of me that I don't show. Like she talks about my, I don't know how I keep her happy.
Because you're cute. She likes your butt. Jeremy has a great butt. I like his smile. Look at him now. I'm making him red.
It was something like that. I don't know, but I love you, brother. I appreciate what you do very much. And you know what? There's never, ever going to be another Beezy. I know the other night you said, well, somebody will be there to replace me. Yeah, I don't think that's the case. I don't think anybody will be able to replace your shoes.
Well, God bless you. My feet are flat as hell. And one day I'll get an actual producer that's paying fucking attention. Just son of a bitch, I guess. It's not California. I can't pay him $20 an hour. Because as you can see, he's not worth $20 an hour, for one thing. So emphasize what's the name of your podcast. I know people can go find it anywhere if they enter their favorite search engine, but what is the name of your podcast?
The Jeremy Hanson Podcast.
Can't be any better than that.
And Morning Crankers will be out in 2 weeks.
Oh, okay. All right. Good point. Now, when you come out with Morning Crankers, where's it going to be? What time is it going to be? And what's the frequency of the show?
Okay. 6 o'clock every morning, Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
6 Central?
6 Central time. Yeah. Sorry.
Okay.
I'm so used to my whole world being Central time. It's 6 Central time. But that is going to be so fun. And it's just going to be a way when you're going to work, we're going to be talking about funny stuff, crazy stuff, just like we used to. We're going to talk about Sasquatch a little bit. We're going to talk about conspiracy a little bit. And we're going to talk about, we're going to do more on Mondays. And I love that.
Because who doesn't like a good moron on a Monday?
We got enough stories, man. I promise.
Oh, shit, yeah. So tell me, also, when you do Morning Crankers and you're going to do Monday through Friday, is it going to be a 1 hour show, a 2 hour show? What's it going to be?
It's going to be 32 minutes.
Okay.
Exactly. 32 minutes. We're trying to give the people that are going to work at that time a couple laughs before they get in there. And, when you're on your way to work, who's got more time than 32 minutes?
Oh, that's true. Unless you're some kind of a super commuter. So it's going to be a 32-minute punch to the head.
Exactly. Yep. And, I hope eventually, if we get big enough, we'll switch to Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and we'll do like a 44-minute show where people can play it, in their factory, in, Applebee's, whatever they're doing. That's kind of the goal for it. But I want to bring people happiness and laughter. And at some point, we just have to look back at ourselves and laugh about this a little bit and understand that although all this bad shit is going on, you could still take your shoes off, walk out in your yard, even you where it's snowy, and take a look up in the sky, and things are not as bad as the propagandists make them think that they are.
No, that's true. That is very, very true. One of the things that I wanted to do with this show, and sadly, it's been fairly negative just on account of because all the crap that's been going on. But I want to emphasize to people that if you haven't noticed, things are changing. There is pushback on DEI. There's pushback on all this gender and trans crap. The pushback is coming. And now, as I've said before, don't expect perfection from Trump. Trump has already kind of pissed me off. Oh, well, get over it. Rally around the dude because he's going to bring some things that we've never seen before. The other aspect of it is already he's a lame duck. He can't go for another presidency. Though it wasn't in succession, you can only do it twice. And so when he's done, that's it. Appreciate him while he's here, support him while he's here. And I think he's going to try to get as much stuff done as possible. So like Jeremy says, this ain't the end all. This ain't the be all. This ain't the final stuff. I mean, you wake up in the morning and the snow fell today, and we saw the sun for a brief period of time, and I love my rescue dogs, and I love my wife, and there are some really good things that are happening in the world. Occasionally, you have to back off and just see it. Get yourself a nice cup of coffee in the morning. Go listen to Morning Crankers. Have a laugh. Have a donut. Have a cruller. Why not? Have two. You'll be okay. We'll make it. Things will be all right. They really will. So, Jeremy Hanson, thank you ever so kindly for being here. I appreciate it. And obviously, I will have you back. Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. That was Jeremy Hanson. This is me. 114 people listening in live in the show. That's great. That was so cool. And here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thank you for listening to BZ's Saloon. That's essentially what I'm going to be calling it now. BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show. And just as per normal, I'm getting more people watching, more people listening. God bless you all. Thank you very much. Promotional consideration is by the Lockheed Martin Skunk Works, also by Shure and Electro Voice microphones, and also by my board, my mixer, the Arrakis ArcTalk Blue, which I am using right over here. And also, thanks to the Pratt & Whitney Engine Company, dependable engines is what they manufacture, creating thrust you can trust. Tiaras, as per normal, are by My Little Pony. And by the way, also thanks to the Allahu Snack Bar, a little bit of Mohammed in every bite. And thanks to my personal KC-135 Kettle One refueling team. In the new year, 2025, I will be consorting with them in less than 10 minutes, just a few feet from where I am right here. Everybody, God bless. Take care. Be safe.
Everybody quiet down now and get some sleep.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Ben.
Good night, everyone. Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Good night, children.
Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good night,
Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, and good luck.